So, I was just going to take some time on this, hopefully not long. So this basically was the sheet that Excel workbook that I created to manage my literature review. And just to give you a brief background of how I did my thesis. So I started working on my thesis in real time from around February. And then I started writing my thesis by early July. Writing. Now I'm not saying that I started doing research on my thesis, I said writing. The way I did was that I captured all that information that I was reading, all the books in my literature review in this Excel sheet. This was my database for every reference that I had in my thesis. So there are certain sections in there you can find out, you can see that there is a source column which I used to identify whether it was a book I'm reading or getting the reference from, an article, a website, whatever it is. So that column is capturing that information. Obviously, if it's a book, it will have a ISBN number. It's good to capture that, which is good for referencing. You have your author or authors. It's good to capture that information, good for referencing. Publishing date, title of the book. Now, this is where things get to start a bit more detailed. I captured the page number of the book or the article, the paragraph number, and the lines where the references were. And then so for me, the most important column in this whole Excel workbook is the one appropriate for chapter. The reason it is the most important one is that if I am reading a book and I'm getting 5 references from that book, I will capture all that information in there, and then I will sort of analyze that. Okay, then I will think that, okay, which section this reference might be valid for. And at that point, I already had the structure of my thesis. So I knew how many chapters I will be writing in my thesis. I knew the names of my chapters. I didn't have much information about what I'm going to put in those chapters, but I knew this is what my structure of my thesis will be looking like. I had that on paper. So when I started to read books, that's where I captured the appropriate for chapter information. So if I found 5 references in a book, 3 of them were valid for my introduction, 1 for literature review, and 1 for research methodology, probably. Just an example. So I will capture 5 lines in there, and then under appropriate for chapter, I will capture those 5 different things. Okay? Now imagine I've been doing that for nearly 2-3 months. From February, March, April, and probably May as well. Okay? I have no recollection, and of course I will copy paste the reference text in there as well. The text that I find relevant to this research. The whole thing. I'll capture everything in there. Now consider the time when I'm starting to actually write my thesis in July. All I have to do, and you guys have used Excel, right? You can put a filter on top. To filter on top of your column. To filter the data. All I had to do was put a filter on appropriate for chapter column and select what things that I read 3 months ago which are appropriate for introduction chapter. And it gave me a huge list of all the things that I read during the last 4 months that were appropriate for my introduction chapter. So think about that. Now I think you have softwares available to do that, probably. But they might not be able to do this appropriate for chapter thing. I think EndNote is doing your referencing for you these days, right? Yeah. So That's one of the reasons I wanted to spend some time on this, because this is, for me, that worked wonderfully. That was the best thing that I could have done for my thesis. It saved me a lot of time. I was very relaxed. I wasn't stressing, because I knew I had a wealth of information available to me that I can simply just put a filter on and get that information, put it in my thesis, and then go away. Any questions? No? Good.
Sorry, did you put whole text to reference text section?
Yes.
It must be very long.
It was a huge thing.
Your whole thesis was ready before you arrived.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But obviously you cannot put every single thing in there.
I see.
But I captured the information that I required, or I thought that, okay, this might be useful as a reference. So if there was a paragraph, I copied the whole paragraph into that column. And later on, if I found something interesting from that specific paragraph, I could even use 1 or 2 lines from that, or just reference it and do that kind of stuff. It was not a small sheet. But that's why I said that when I created this, it took me nearly 3 weeks to do this. Because if you don't spend that time up front, anything you change later on, that will be disastrous. Because your data collection is set, then you cannot change anything into this. You cannot add anything to this. That's why you have to spend some time up front to realize and analyze what things you're going to require for referencing. Because I simply cannot go back to February and say, oh, by the way, I need this information as well. No, it's gone. Because I had moved on. I didn't even need to go back to read the books. I knew what the reference was. I had copied the text, so I didn't even need the books. And that's one of the things that you guys must realize, that getting books after, I would say, April is going to be tough. So start managing that risk, because everybody will start to book books in library. And then if you have a book, somebody will call in, and it's a very frustrating thing. When you have a book, you just got the book, and somebody gets a call on that book. And that will happen quite a lot once you get nearer to your submission. So manage that risk. I was just talking during the break. Engage with your supervisor. It's very important. They are there to help you, but it's very important that you understand their role. A supervisor is not going to work for you. A supervisor is there to work with you. The expectation sometimes you have is that, oh, they will do a lot of work for you. Get that in your head. It's not a for relationship. It's a with relationship. So, but having said that, a supervisor is there to help you, guide you, and work with you. So there's absolutely no harm in approaching your supervisor whenever you feel like, whenever you have an issue, whenever you are facing some difficulty in trying to understand. Because we all realize that it's potentially this might be something that you are doing for the first time. And it will be difficult for you to get grips of this new system and trying to understand that. So yeah, by all means, approach your supervisor. He should be, or he or she should be, your first point of contact. But do your homework first. There's no point approaching your supervisor with a blank check. Do your homework. Ask the questions that really matter. Don't ask open-ended questions, which may even more confuse you even more. Because if you haven't done your homework, whatever your supervisor is going to tell you may confuse you. Because you don't know what that means. So you need to do your homework as well. This is a very important point. I see individuals every year, and then by the end of the year, some of them, they become actually good friends as well. Not all of them. Some people prefer to remain individuals. That's equally fine. But there's no harm asking your fellow student, your peer, for support. They might be more experienced than you. They might have different view on things. You may be so consumed into what you're doing that you may not see a different perspective. So it's always good to work with other people. And, you know, I see a wealth of knowledge in front of me. I'm only one person. There are about 30 odd people in this room. Everyone has their own experiences. You are absolutely fully capable of everything that you want to do. Why not utilize it? You know, it's a different perspective. My perspective is from one side. You have 30 different perspectives in the world. So make relationships, make friends, bounce off your ideas. That's one of the purposes for the risk group. We are sharing ideas, or at least we should be. We should be. We are sharing ideas. We are bouncing off different things. And there are a lot of alumni involved in that risk group, but we have taken a step back because we want the students to take the lead. We want you guys to actually sit down and discuss things among your own selves. Because that's where you learn even more. If a supervisor or alumni is involved in a discussion, there is a probability that students might feel a bit hesitant, tentative, or I shouldn't discuss this thing in front of a supervisor. That's where your peers are going to be more beneficial to you, to give you that comfort level that you need. Okay, so these 2 points are quite similar and they're related. So your writing style should be very easy to understand. Now, there are 2 examples given in the practical world right now. So either whatever you're writing should be understandable by a layman, and by a layman I mean that person who has absolutely no idea about your subject. Or the second thing that is quoted in the world is that you can ask a 10-year-old child to read your writing and they should be able to understand it. That is the standard. In presentation, when you are creating a presentation or writing a piece of paper or any document in the professional world. Because if it is not, then chances are that most of the people will actually not understand what you're trying to say. If you cannot even convince and make a 10-year-old child understand what you're trying to say, you're losing the plot. Your writing should be very easy to understand. It shouldn't be ambiguous. It shouldn't be confusing, because confusing writing means that you are confused. And I think you guys are not confused. Not yet, at least. Now, again, these 2 points are quite linked with each other. The devil is in the detail. So if anybody tells you it's not, they're wrong. Everything depends in the detail. If you've proofread your thesis or your PMA 2 times, read it again. It's never enough. And go even further than that. Ask somebody else to read it for you. Do you agree?
Yeah, we all do that.
There you go. Ask somebody else to read it for you, because I was so consumed in my thesis that when I sent it to my friends, they came back with very, very good positive feedback, which actually helped me. And I was actually amazed that how could I miss these simple things. But it's because I was so consumed into that, I just overlooked everything. And I focused on the main things that I wanted to focus on. You will be amazed at what other people can find mistakes in your work if you get their feedback. The last week of my submission, 2 days before the submission date, I submitted 2 days before. I spent 1 week on formatting alone. Simple formatting, nothing else. Because a simple change, we are talking about a 80-90 page document. Any change anywhere in the beginning of the document means that you have to change every single thing. And I'm not talking about Microsoft Project 2010 and 11. I'm talking about Microsoft Project 2006 and 7, where there wasn't a lot of automation available. So you had to do a lot of work manually. That is a bottleneck. Please be aware of that. You have to set aside quite considerable amount of time on formatting in the end. I did not sleep for 4 days. It's a fact. The last 4 days before submission, I did not sleep. I was living on Red Bull. It's a good thing, by the way, for me at least. So you have to do crazy things in order to get crazy results. One more very important thing that I would just like to take some time on is that I operate on a reward-based system for my own self. That is my self-motivation mechanism. Whatever I do, if I don't like it, I set myself a reward. I used to smoke. I've quit for now 2 years now. So during my university times, a cigarette was my reward for every 1,000 words that I finished. But you have to be very, controlling of your own self. You need to have self-control in order to do that. Because you will be so motivated to just, I'm not working on this, and just go and smoke. And all my smoker friends here, they would know what I'm talking about.
I'm doing the same actually.
Why? Man. So, and only you know what motivates you and what rewards will work for you. I cannot tell you. Cigarettes work for me, a movie, a TV series, a walk, 10-15 minutes walk, calling a friend, whatever works for you. Identify. Reward yourself. Set targets. You need to finish this by this. Once you do that, you can reward yourself with this. It will be very difficult in the beginning because it's by human nature. You will say, oh, sorry, I'm just bored. I'm just not going to work on this. What's this stupid system? Why are you forcing me to do that? You'll have these arguments with your own self, obviously. I'm not crazy, but still. But eventually you will get it. And it will work for you. Because you will realize the benefit. Unless and until you don't realize why is it going to work for you, it will never work for you. It will work for you because you are doing something and you are getting rewarded for that. That's the way things work. You do something, you get rewarded for that. You don't do something, you get punished. It's a very simple rule of life. So, try to find out a reward system that works for you. It will be very helpful. And I'm actually going to rush through this because I don't want to spend individually. The last element of the presentation was social aspects of life at Warwick. I cannot stress enough how important it is to create friends, make friends. This is a very unique opportunity for every single one of you. Even right now, I see a big mix of culture, nationalities, languages, different people, different values. You can learn so much from that. I'm working for an international organization, and my first exposure to international, international big village kind of thing was from Warwick. I had Greeks, I had Italians, I had Germans, I didn't have any French. I had a lot of Asians, Chinese, obviously. And that actually opened my mind. It introduced me to different cultures, different values, how people see things from a different perspective. And that has enabled me quite a lot in managing people in my current profession. Because people management is one of the key skills in project management. Everybody can create plans. You can use the best software to create the best plan. But who is actually working that plan? It's people. If you don't understand people, project management is not for you. If you don't know how to work with people, I would say project management again is not for you. You can be bossy, fine. But just being bossy means that you're basically, sorry, I'm on video so I can't swear. But it means that you are just being bossy. But you have to mix your bossiness with the reward-based system. Yes, keep your professionalism separate from your social life, but have a reward-based system. Try to understand, you have to understand what your employees and what your team is going through, how to motivate them and making sure that they're delivering to their fullest of capabilities. That's a good sign of a good leader, to motivate people to perform at their peak level. So, these are some of the things that you can engage with during your life at Warwick. There are a lot of societies. There are a lot of, you have, I think this year there are 6 PPM groups. In my time we only had 2. So you can well imagine that how many students are coming this year. And there's a wealth of information, knowledge, friendships to be made, potential, utilize that. There are sporting events, social events. Nobody is stopping you from arranging a social event. Go for it. I'm pretty sure there will be somebody who will be excited about what your your preferences are. So utilize, capitalize on that. And again, this is going back to the individualistic kind of thing. Try to make friends. You remember Volkan, right? Who came at the beginning. I've met him after like 4 or 5 years. But I still remember him. After he left university, I haven't met him after that. But he's a very good friend. We still remember. And by chance, I saw him on Facebook. And I added him. And I didn't even realize he was still working in Coventry for the past 2 years. And I've been coming to Coventry for the last 3 years. But I'm still in contact with all of my friends that I made during my work here. They're all on my Facebook. I get regular updates. You need to have a social cult, gathering, because you have to realize you are far away from your home, your families, your friends. You are living in a new environment, an alien environment for you, most of you. So you need friends around you to support you, to go to and have fun, enjoy, relax. And I was telling Kelly before the presentation that you have to enjoy this year, because you may not get this opportunity again. Stress is definitely going to be there, but if you don't enjoy it, it's only stress. Have stress plus enjoyment, because without enjoyment it's just stress. and it's not helpful to anybody. For me, it was the best time. Best time of my life. I made a lot of friends. I thoroughly enjoyed my studies. I am actually very proud of my dissertation. I did quite a lot. I learned a lot. So it was a very, very good year for me. I partied as well. I went outing, you know, arranging social events, went out with friends, movies, everything. We did everything. And that's how it should be. It's not just about studies. It's about the whole package. The whole package is that you study and then you enjoy. You study, you enjoy. And it goes back to your managing your time, how you manage your time. If you don't manage your time, you will be studying all the time. And plus being stressed about it. If you do, you'll be very relaxed. Adil, one of another alumni, and he's also supervisor this year. He's not here, but a lot of you already know him. He finished his thesis, I think a month earlier. He submitted a month earlier. So he had a perfect plan, and he stuck to the plan. Creating a plan is not the difficult thing. It's sticking to the plan is the most important thing. He stuck to his plan. He submitted his PMAs in 1 week. Maximum 2. I could never do that, because that was not my preference. And he got an overall distinction. So, and he enjoyed as well. He's the complete package. Darren Maynard, another of alumni. A lot of you might have heard his name. Brilliant student. Absolutely brilliant. He was another complete package. He was part of the societies, he was part of the student union, he was part of all the, you know, sports, social, student union, best in class as well. I think he got an overall distinction as well. People have done it. It's nothing new. It never will be new. It never was new. And you guys can do it as well. Okay? And then one last piece of advice. Questions? Yes.
Final thesis area, research area?
Sorry?
What is your final research area?
My research was looking at IT risk management, comparison between success of construction projects and failure of IT projects, and attributing that to risk management. Yes?
So from August the 30th to the end of September, what were you doing?
After submission?
Yeah. Is it preparing to the final?
You can well imagine I was dead tired. I basically relaxed. It wasn't until November that I found my first job in UK. But a sort of advice for international students is that it is quite difficult right now in the job market, especially with all the visa status. Fortunately for my time, I had the option of PSW, which is not available, I think it's not available to any international students right now.
Have you got any information about the actual oral exam? That's like 2 weeks after submission.
Yes. What kind of information are you looking for?
Did you prepare for it?
Yes, you have to prepare for it,
So you need to.
because that's a way of, because there is a secondary supervisor as well that comes to that Viva, and they actually, so that's basically going back to the point about a layman or a 10-year child should be able to understand your thesis. So your secondary supervisor, effectively, it should be so simple that they should be able to get the information straight away and get the point of your thesis straight away. So So they come to that viva, and it is sort of making sure that there is no, it's clearly visible to everybody, and there are no, what's the word? I keep forgetting the word. There are no specific benefits to anybody, and they want to keep it as open as possible, the whole process. So there's a secondary supervisor, and then there's your own supervisor. They sit down, they go through your whole research, not page by page, but you have to summarize. Most of the time, I think I did a presentation for about 15 to 20 minute presentation on my findings and everything around my research. That's what most of the supervisors now ask for you.
Yeah, so that's about 2 weeks preparation.
Depends on the availability of your primary and secondary supervisors.
So sometime that month after.
It can potentially be, yeah. Can. Because some of these supervisors have 6 students, so it's very difficult to arrange secondary supervisors sometimes.
We've got a leave here by the end of September. They kick you out, right?
No, but it's not a big deal. Obviously, if you've done the work, then you already know what you've done, right? So it doesn't make any difference. Yes, please.
Do you have some suggestions for Christmas?
Have fun. Enjoy. No, I think I don't personally celebrate Christmas, so I really don't know what kind of suggestion you're looking for. What are you trying to?
I mean, you just mentioned that we need to plan just back up to August.
Yes.
So maybe up to Christmas, from the start of the plan, or we need to do something about. Of course, we need to finish July, but the project we need to do something about it.
Yes. In simple words, yes. You need to start working on your project and start thinking about your project as soon as possible. Don't leave it for too late. Ideally, the criteria to analyze the success, or actually the selection criteria for that, is that when you go to REME, you should at least have some literature review or some of your research methodology at least read, right? If not written already. You should have done some kind of homework on that. So I don't know when they are scheduled this year. The REME module, anybody knows?
Depends on the group.
Depends on the group.
Some are in December, like the first.
What's the first one?
January 10th and 14th,
Okay.
and then some are in January. Yeah, December and January, and then March
Yeah.
again.
So effectively, from January they will start running the REME module. Right?
From December.
From December, okay.
December 10th.
Okay. If you are in that group, ideally you should have some.
Yeah,
Some
I'm
knowledge.
to that group.
Yeah. So you should at least start thinking about what you're trying to do. If nothing else, at least the scope, the title,
Yeah,
the structure, how many chapters you want to have in your research.
think about it.
If you can write in this, that will be even better. Because there will be a bottleneck in your plan somewhere. How do you have any back-to-back modules next year?
No.
You don't have. Lucky you, man. You're very lucky. That's fine. So, but still, you need to have, you need to manage your risk. So, as early as you can start, that will be good. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Like now you are a project manager, right?
Yeah.
Besides being a project manager, what else did you do before?
Ooh, interesting question.
Yes. Because further question is like, did you find it's practical what we learn right now as a program project management students?
Yes.
You could.
Yes. Definitely 4 modules that I still remember, because we are talking about 6 years back, right? 4 modules that I still remember that actually helped me once I got my first job in UK: OPP, MOC, PPMC, and MMPE. Now, specifically MMPE, I would like to stress here, because that was my last module. And I got my job in November, and I left the uni in August, right? So I got my job in November, and I'm not exaggerating, honest to God, when I started working, it was exactly like I was in an MMPE module. It was so realistic, that exercise.
And you worked as a project manager at that time?
No, that contract was for assistant program office manager. So I was working for a program office manager, and I was his assistant. And they were managing programs and projects in that PMO. And I helped establish that PMO. That guy was a KPMG's senior associate. He was a contractor as well. So I helped him establish a PMO and manage programs, reporting lines, planning, all that kind of stuff, and how to prioritize the projects in there. So it was exactly how I did the simulation in an MMPE model. I would say the alignment was about 80%, 80-90%. It was so realistic. So yes, there is a lot of value in what you're doing, especially the simulation exercises. Yes, please.
When you had no idea about your PMA or dissertation,
Yes.
what did you believe?
First, I prayed. If that didn't work, I started banging my head against the wall. Even if that didn't work, then obviously all the things that I've mentioned here, working with my peers, asking questions, I didn't realize how things work until I reached my third or fourth PMA. So the first few PMAs, I struggled quite a lot because I'm coming from a completely different education system. So that was very new for me. I struggled a lot. I've never been a, sorry, excuse me,